Hey everyone, welcome to Geek Rant. It's Greg here again on the channel with Toby, and today we're going to be talking about Andor episodes 8 and 9. Hey everyone, thanks for joining us today. We're going to be talking about episodes 8 and 9 of Andor,
Yep.
which is been a couple of weeks since we've looked at this one, isn't it?
Yeah.
So, picking up from the last episode
Mm.
7, this was where we saw Andor getting taken away. He seemed to get sort of caught up in some sort of issue that was going on the street,
Yeah. Yeah.
pulled in by the Imperial troopers,
And they've
and
clamped
given.
down because of the heist.
That's
So they're
right.
making it so things are stricter.
Yes. And so his 6 month sentence was now a 6 year sentence.
Yeah, which seemed incredibly expensive. I don't know how they're funding this sort of thing, but it's expensive to
well,
lock people up for that long, isn't it?
well, you say that we're seeing this episode, don't we? Why they're
We
doing it?
do.
Why they're
Mm.
got all these guys.
Mm.
So he gets taken off. He gets told he's going to Narkina 5, which is the name of the series, the
Yeah.
episode. Sorry.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's quite straightforward, really, isn't it? He gets taken to this Imperial factory sort of
Yeah.
base. It seems like it's on lots of different layers, doesn't it? Lots of different levels
Yeah.
and so on. And he gets shown into this room where they've got these they've got these floors which can
Yeah.
cause some sort of paralyzing or painful,
Well,
discharge.
the first scene where
Mm,
where they arrive on this prison planet. You assume it's a prison planet, don't you? It's kind of like,
yes, yeah,
and the first thing that they warn them about is, well, take your shoes off. They tell them in
yeah,
the transport, and then when
that's
they
right.
get there, they're standing on this metal,
Yeah,
and they can press a button and give them an electric shock.
yeah,
Basically,
yeah,
and
yeah.
they'll form like positions like they're in
Yeah, I thought that
Michael
was quite funny.
Jackson's Thriller.
Yeah, they're like, woo, woo. It was very funny, wasn't
Yeah,
it?
it was very
He did
funny.
it particularly well, actually, didn't he? When he went down, when Andor went down, you were like going, "Yes, got the
And he puts
bastard."
his hand down as well on the floor. Probably makes it
Yeah,
even worse. And the guards are wandering around with these big like slippers on, aren't they?
industrial.
Basically,
Yeah, these boots, which are sort of protection,
insulated,
aren't
but
they? They're
they look like
insulated.
they
Yes.
look a bit like UGG boots, don't they?
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, because that bit where he's looking up, he sees them walking down the corridor in
Yeah,
those boots, and I'm like,
yeah,
oh, that's quite a fashion statement.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, they
But
were funny.
there is a reason, isn't there? And they make a point of telling all the prisoners, don't they, that we don't really have any weapons because we've got this system whereby we can flip the switch and you get zapped.
And there's
And they
loads of
go,
them. There's lots of different layers, aren't there? There's tens of thousands of prisoners in this place
yes,
manufacturing items for maybe the Death Star. We don't quite know what it's for, if it's for
yeah,
anything,
that this is it.
you know.
This is what I wondered. What were
Yeah,
those elements? Because they were producing just the same element over and over, weren't they? And I
yeah.
wondered whether that got something to do with something like the Death Star or some
Mm,
big, power drive or something. It was
mm.
they were quite interesting looking
There's a
items, weren't
sense of
they?
the thankless about it, isn't there? They're not really, they don't know what they're doing,
No,
why they're doing it. It doesn't
yeah,
appear obvious what they're making.
no,
It's a kind of everything's based around sevens, seven in the group, seven
yeah,
in the room,
yeah,
maybe 7 floors, and
yeah,
so
yeah,
there's some symmetry in what they're doing, and it's kind of like just they're like robots just doing this job being
yeah,
tortured,
yeah.
and
And I liked some of the touches with it. I quite liked this style. The music in it is very sort of atmospheric, isn't it? Techno-y, sort of atmospheric-y sort of
yeah.
music. The voiceover when you hear when they say instructions to them is kind of like a
Mm.
sort of a deep robotic voice.
Yeah,
It's quite, yeah.
bit
They've
Squid
created
Gamey in
this.
a way, sort of.
It
It's
is
a
a
bit.
bit. Yes, that's a good way to
They are
describe
playing
it.
a bit of a
Yeah,
game. They're playing
yeah,
a bit of a game, aren't they? And if they don't win, the seventh position team get electrocuted in the middle of the room. Everybody watches.
Yeah, after every shift. Yeah,
yeah, so they're up against it.
yeah,
And weirdly, Andor ends up in a group, and we've got Circus. Andy Circus is
that's right.
as the head of their group, their supervisor.
Yeah,
and he comes in, puts him in a group, and the group that Andor's in has this old guy in,
yes,
who's been there the longest. But
yeah.
it strikes me that wouldn't they come last in every bloody round if you've got this old guy can't do anything? No,
Well,
1/7 of their team.
It doesn't look like they do particularly well, does it?
No.
They that first one he comes into, they're already a player down, aren't they? And
Yeah.
they all get zapped. You said the poor old Andor's turned up and he's got zapped twice in a day.
Yeah.
So yeah, but you're right. The old guy is a bit of a hindrance, isn't he? But
Yeah.
they kind of spot that a bit later on, don't they? Where Andor
They
says,
do
"Let me
in the
change
next
places."
episode. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because they give us the intro, don't they? And basically there's a lot more that goes on in this episode outside the prison.
Yeah, you see a bit of Mon Mothma.
Yep.
There's a lot more of her. I mean, she does seem to be having a lot of after dinner sort of events, doesn't she?
Yeah.
She's very much living a life of luxury. I mean, you can certainly see the parallels, can't you, between the characters. Andor's and all his friends are on the knees, aren't they?
Yeah.
And then these senators and the people in the Empire, they've all got certain luxuries and things that they have, which is why those people want to maintain the Empire and these sorts of things, isn't it?
I think I think she's got it's almost a trickier game for her to play though, because hers is all about deception, whereas Andor's is all about it's just visceral and there, and he has to deal with it. Whereas, and it is a nice juxtaposition to have that two different mindsets. You have to see, and she's absolutely been amazing in the role as Mon Mothma.
Yeah,
and I just think whenever it goes to her, and to see.
And she's got some good characters around her as well. I mean, her husband, Perrin, he plays it so well. He quite enjoys that lifestyle. He quite enjoys being part of it all. He's not too. She wants to speak out about the overreach from the Emperor and what they're doing on other planets, and he's kind of a bit all right. And I thought that was also interesting. There was a bit within the episode where they talk about that she had been married to him when she was only 15, and that it was like an arranged marriage. Because we kind of wondered, didn't we, in the last couple of episodes, did they actually like each other? Why are they married?
I think, I mean, that is a good point. I mean, I mean? Arranged marriages can be a bit like that, can't they? I think ultimately, what I want to know
work really well, some can be bad.
What I want to know is, why has Mon Mothma gone towards becoming a rebel? Why has she rebelled? And we don't really know that very much, do we, at the moment? That would be nice if they could work that into the storyline. Maybe in the next series that they have a period of her when she's younger, but they don't seem to be doing the flashback. It is very much in the now. So that they haven't used that.
I think she can just see that it's going down a route of being taking away everybody's rights, and that they're going to be pretty much slaves to the Emperor, and I think she doesn't want that. She wants to get the old system back, if you like, and
why is she not afraid? I mean, at the end of the day, she is afraid, but why? She is afraid, but why? How has she got the confidence to be able to take these steps? And I think it's like when we were with Vel and on the planet, and they were saying that everybody has a reason. Whoa. Yes, and I don't know exactly what her reason is yet. Now that taking that aside, she's been brilliant. But I just think this is something that'd be nice to know about Mon Mothma. and
Well, I
why.
think that can be something that can be explained
Yeah, I hope so.
if Cassian say meets her and gets brought in under her wing,
Yeah.
then there may be a bit more of an opening up. She exactly what you said there. She's having to play a very difficult line here, isn't she?
Mm,
She can't really confide
mm,
in many people. She can't really sort of say what she's doing, and
mm,
she's living even to her own family. So she's living quite a lie. The only person
mm.
that seems that she might is Vel, and
And Tay.
that yeah, it's
Yeah.
it's kind of it's she needs a very difficult life, doesn't she? Although she's
Yeah.
got, like you say, an appearance of luxury, she's just as much a prisoner as the other sort of characters, isn't she?
Yeah. But I mean, I thought as well, we didn't really see much of Luthen. We don't really see
Yes,
much
sorry.
of him in these two episodes.
No, we don't. I know that was one of the things I thought. He was in it a little bit, wasn't
Yeah.
he? And
A
his
little bit.
character, I hope, isn't going to fall away, because I was hoping that he was going to step up to do some more sort of
Mm.
challenge, exciting sort of stuff.
It feels like the girls have stepped in. Vel's, which we find out is Mon Mothma's cousin, comes
That's right.
in,
Yeah.
and she seems to have has taken over his role a little bit, along with Luthen's assistant, who
Yeah. For
Keela.
life of me, Keela.
Cal.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I thought he was saying Princess I thought he was saying Leia at one point, and it
Well,
sounded
it's interesting that her
just
name
like that,
sounds
didn't
like
it?
that because they've
Yeah.
dressed her up to look very much like Princess Leia.
Yeah. Yeah.
She looks like the part, and at times I think I was like, "Oh, is it her? Is
There's a
it
bit where
Princess
he's
Leia?"
calling her, and I was like,
Yeah,
that sounded like Leia then. I was like,
yeah, yeah.
how
I know,
weird,
but her name is a bit like it.
Mm.
Yeah,
But I
it's
think I
quite
think
interesting one.
Luthen he's done this big exploit. He's got this money now, and
Yeah,
he seems worried about the fact that he confided a little bit in Cassian and gave him a bit too much information, and that they
yeah,
can't find him. They don't know where he is. I think he's just
mm,
worrying a bit about being his cover being blown. He goes, doesn't he? You actually see him go and meet Sol Guerrera
yeah.
with his
Which is
little
brilliant.
band of, which
I
was a
thought it was
good bit,
excellent.
wasn't it?
It was really
That was a
good.
really good bit where they're having their little, oh, I thought that was you. No, I'm sure it was you, and all that sort of toing and froing. But he was trying to encourage him into another mission,
Yeah,
to provide air support for an attack.
yeah,
And I, that's one that perhaps we'll see that later. Perhaps that'll be something that comes into the
yeah.
series.
That's it. They've got time to do some more because they're shooting more. So it's and Forrest Whitaker,
Yeah,
he is a great actor. I mean, I
yeah,
never was a big fan of his originally, but then as he's matured in his roles, he comes in and he's just so there, isn't he? He's just in your face.
yeah,
And so we want to see more of Saw, don't we? I mean, we want to
yeah,
see more of him. So
yeah,
fingers crossed.
exactly. Yeah, no, well, I'm hoping we will. I hope it's just not one of
Yeah,
those cameo things that's just a little drop it in because it was in Rogue One, or
yeah. No.
and then we don't see it again. But
He's
I
probably
I did.
expensive, I should imagine.
Yeah, this is it, isn't it? This is what I'm thinking
Yeah,
about Stellan Skarsgård.
yeah, me
Is he
too.
expensive to have on the road on the roster?
I think
And
so. That could be part of the
he's
problem.
yeah, yeah.
And
That's what I
timing. He
worry
may have
about.
other projects as well.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. But it would be nice to see more of him, wouldn't it? And to see him do a bit more, another, like you say,
Would.
set up another mission, set up another
Yeah.
attack on
So
somewhere. I think that could be quite
conceivably,
good.
that might not be in this series. It might be in the next
No,
series.
no,
Um,
that's true.
and Stellan
I
Skarsgård
suppose
may not
if
be
this is
signed up for two
successful,
seasons. He may not be signed up
yeah,
for two seasons. I mean, it's like if you look at Game of Thrones with Sean Bean, he just did the first season, didn't he?
yeah, yeah.
I think it's a bit
Yeah, but
hit
that
and
was because
miss,
his
really.
character was down to being killed
Well,
anyway, wasn't it?
he may have been killed on scene, but that may have been something he signed up for, just doing one
Right.
season.
Yeah,
So yeah, it's good to have. It's good that they've willing to show Forrest Whitaker. It shows that they seriously consider this show to be part of that Rogue One dynamic. They're not holding back.
Yeah.
And
Well,
I loved all the political wranglings in this episode.
I thought it was really good. Yeah,
I thought it was great.
I think people are saying the show too slow or whatever, but it's not. It's just got some actual political discussion and some plotting and some planning, and I'm quite liking that. I like.
Well, this was
everything
good.
They're doing is really well written. Everything they're doing, the sets and all the things around it are really well put together. It's not rubbish. You're not just dawdling along like we did with Obi-Wan. This is good stuff, isn't it?
I do think that there was that episode before the heist where it got really slow with not much going on. I think
just a little
there were
bit.
a few,
there
were a few people that
said,
episode, and I personally thought it was. But then since they've brought the main actors back in, there's just quality on screen acting.
It just helps it, doesn't it? Yeah,
it's quality TV.
We've obviously got Cyril as well. He's now trying. He's been trying to investigate.
Character. He's fascinating.
He's the guy plays it well, doesn't he?
He does.
He's quite a freaky, weird character, isn't he? He's got some issues.
He does. But I mean, in the next episode we find out a bit more about him. But we're starting to get hints. He's going to play a part, an important part in this whole story. I love the way that they just give him little bits here and there of weirdness, and then he comes in with his kind of intenseness that he's got, and he's all very serious about everything, and he's, is it in this episode we find out he's starting to file more reports, or is it in the next episode?
Yeah, it is. So at the beginning of this one, they come and take him to Dedra, don't they? And she sort of interrogates him, and again, I mean, she's
brilliant.
She has been really good in this, hasn't she? She's
really good.
She's a great find, and
those eyes, her eyes are so wide.
She's so convincing as this character, isn't she? And plays it so well. It's been a real joy, isn't it, to see her and those two offsetting each other. Trying to with the discussion. So he's a zealot, isn't he? He wants to blooming come on board and help them find Andor and really sort this situation. He wants to become part of the ISB, really.
He does. And you're right to use the word zealot, because he's got a religious following. He seriously believes in what the Empire is offering.
And I think she's a bit taken aback by all this, isn't she? She thinks he's a right. Yeah. So they had that first comment because he says to her, I hadn't even seen the report. I got told to sign something. I didn't even know what it was. He sees there's some mistakes, gives her a bit more information. And then she says, you've been helpful to the Empire. And I thought this was good where he's able to go, when he goes back to work, they promoted him a bit. And he goes back to his mum's giving him all this grief about, I've cleaned your clothes and I've got you this job and I've done this. I've been promoted. So just like, I knew they'd see good in you.
It's nice because she's just as creepy as he is.
You can see why.
Weird, creepy dynamic going on. He's obviously about 35 and she treats him like he's 15.
Yeah. Oh dear. So that was kind of a good little moment, where
bet they'd have laughed doing that, those two.
He sees her later as well, doesn't he? He's followed and tried to.
Now is that that's in episode 9?
It might be in episode 2. It might be in
the second 9, episode we're looking at.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm jumping.
That's all right.
Well, the other person, the other characters that come back, obviously the people who are on the original planet. So we had Bix. She basically gets pulled in, doesn't she, by the ISB.
Well, Dedra's like a greyhound now. She's tracking them down, and she's turned up on the planet and hauled in the mechanic guy who works in the shop where Biggs uses the radio to send out messages. And then he gets tortured, tells her everything because they've got this bizarre torture
Yeah,
technique that we find
yeah.
out that Biggs is going to have to experience.
I know. Yeah, and that was quite interesting, wasn't it? I liked
I
their,
wasn't sold on that concept, to be honest. I
weren't
wasn't
you?
sold. No, I wasn't.
Oh, that's interesting. That's interesting. But they
No, I
couldn't they
don't
couldn't
think that that
play
would
it to us
work.
because we would have all burst into tears. So, it's hard to
Well,
prove
have
something
you
like
never had a sound? Listen, have you never had a sound that's constant, and then before you just get used to it, and you don't hear it as much. Now I know this is the most extreme sound, but surely you can apply that principle to any sound. Eventually, some of it will fade out rather than get worse. I don't
yeah,
know. I mean, I think
yeah.
that
I
ultimately,
know what you
I
mean.
couldn't
I know what
buy
you mean.
into this concept. I've never
Okay,
heard it
okay.
anywhere else.
No, no.
And so I struggled with that one. I
Well, I
I
kind
wanted to
of,
see the droid floating, the black
yeah,
droid
yeah, that little round.
rise out of his case, and it'd be a smaller, more simple version. And he says, "We're trying to perfect this," and like
Yeah.
suddenly, it's like, but no, they didn't do that. They gave the screaming cries of dying babies and children. Just thought that was a bit
Yeah,
stupid.
I think it's I sort of equate it to, in Dune, when those women use the voice,
Yes,
I
the
kind of slightly
yeah,
equate it to something like that. That this is some sort of strange, almost magical. You got to remember we've
they
got the
don't have magic in
force
this though,
throughout.
do
So
they?
they have the force.
Yeah,
It's like,
yeah,
could this be a manipulation of the force somehow that
it
makes
could
you
be.
buckle
It
at the
could be.
knees? I don't
It
know,
could be.
but
But I
yeah,
find it weird that it would be the dying cries of this alien species that would do that. But anyway, it
well,
should come from a Sith Lord or something like that.
well, this is it. This
I
is
don't
it.
know.
Well,
Yeah,
well,
it's a
I mean,
interesting
they seem to be
concept.
steering quite clear of the
Yeah,
Force
they
and
do.
any Jedi, and that's quite nice in some respects as well, because sometimes they chuck it in Jedi characters that aren't great,
Yeah,
and you think, oh, that's pretty poor. So I'm pleased we're seeing what it's more like the majority of the universe, isn't it? It's like we're seeing
yeah, yeah.
the innards of some of the
The
low level
commoners.
rebels, and the standard, imperial guys that are in the
Yeah,
background trying to work out what's going on. So
yeah.
yeah, yeah, it's
Well,
been good.
you know, I think on some level it's good. I enjoy it, but then just to be tantalized a little bit by someone with a little bit of force sensitivity, I find always
Yeah,
very stimulating.
yeah, yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's
When
all they need to do, isn't it?
that's
They
all
wouldn't
they
have to have a
need.
massive big battle.
Yeah,
You just need a little bit of a, like you say, a little
yeah,
hook you in, just for
yeah,
ooh.
yeah. And it'd be
But
some that all the geeks would then trace it right back to the origins of that character,
that's
who that
true.
character was,
That's
and
true. Yeah,
you know,
yeah. Yeah.
yeah. No, I think you need to bring a little bit of magic or a little bit of force into this show,
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
for me, those screens weren't it. But we should move on from
No.
this.
Bix, she's gone to see Andor's mum, and she's not in good health, is she?
No,
She's almost sort of like she doesn't want to be helped, and
she
she
wants to help the rebels,
wants to help the
you know.
rebels.
So
Yeah,
she's doing stupid things that aren't.
yeah,
She's sort of clutching at straws and trying to break things and find passages and do.
that's
It's
right.
just getting her in trouble, basically.
Yeah, yeah. And so Bix is trying to help her, basically, isn't she? She's gone to see her. They don't know
Yeah.
what's happened to Cassian. Obviously, he's gone to
No,
prison, so we don't. They've got no clue.
knobhead.
He's um,
He's such a
I mean,
knobhead, isn't he? I don't know.
and then Bix
Anyway,
also she tries to contact Luthen, doesn't she? And that's where we see a little bit of Luthen.
mm,
He's let's close this down now.
yeah,
He's being pushed by his assistant to close it down. I sort of wondered who's in
yeah,
charge between those two. Are
yeah,
they?
absolutely. Well,
Is
this
it
is the
her or is it
handover, Greg.
him?
This is Greg. I feel this is the handover. This is
Yeah,
the moment she's closing him down,
yeah,
and we're going to see less of him in this series now. I think this is
Or
like a token
he's going to
scene.
go on a mission that's not successful, you know, and get killed. You know, perhaps that's something that's going to, you know, come into it. But
Yeah,
yes,
yeah.
you could
So
well be right there.
yeah,
Could well be right
Princess Leia take two comes in and takes over. I
there.
think.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Okay, so that's pretty much the first episode, Narkina 5. Then the
Hmm.
next episode, the most recent episode, was episode 9, which is called Nobody's Listening,
Mm.
which is part of reference to Andor. He's had this sort of attitude, isn't he, about the Empire, that
Yeah,
they don't really give much of a damn
yeah,
about what they think, what the people on the ground, you know, they don't really, and that's where this nobody's listening comes from, isn't it? Sort of,
yeah.
they don't care what these prisoners are saying or whatever. They've got fat and greedy, and they think they're in power,
Hmm.
and can't be stopped. So, I mean, at the beginning of episode 9, we do see this interrogation sequence that we were talking about, and
Yeah,
so Bix actually gets this thing put on, and
yeah. Well, we talked
horrible
about
sounds.
that.
Talked about that. We also see obviously Cassian. He's in the prison. He's
Yeah,
been and he's trying to find a way to get out, isn't he? He's always looking at
yeah,
how many guards are on each time, and
yeah. He's
how
made
they can.
friends in amongst the
Yeah,
team, and
yeah,
he's picked out and isolated other people who have a similar idea. They want to try and escape.
yeah,
A lot of people are just kind of we're never going to get out of here. But what they've started to
mm,
notice is numbers are going up. You know,
yeah,
are people actually getting out? You know, people are committing
yeah,
suicide on the floor
yeah.
in their dorms. You know,
That's right.
it's they realize Andor he's often a bit like a rabbit caught in the headlights, isn't he? And I think on this
Mm,
situation he realizes that he's got to get the hell out of there because
yeah,
he's not going to survive in this place, especially with to a certain extent he's got to take some responsibility for how the whole thing's going, isn't he? Because he's obviously the main guy behind the heist apart from Vel, and
yes.
so it still feels more about him trying to escape, doesn't it, rather than him trying to make amends or trying
Oh
to,
yeah,
you
yeah,
know,
yeah. I don't think he feels any sort of like he's got
no,
to apologize for anything.
no,
I think he's very much, and we saw several bits there. So he sort of talks to the Andy Serkis character, doesn't he, a few times, trying to get information out of him, and
yeah,
he's very much, look, you just do the job, just get it done. You've only got X amount of shifts to do, and then that's it.
yeah.
You can go. Um,
And I
but
thought they would
it's
escape this. I thought they would escape this episode.
yeah,
I thought
yeah.
this was the one. I thought they'd only have 2 episodes in it,
I
but
did too.
on reflection, the amount of effort they put into the sets and the
Yeah,
design and for
yeah.
this particular sequence, it's almost like a film in its own right.
It is, isn't
This
it?
whole prison thing,
I know.
it's kind of very strange, but you obviously put a lot into it. So it's going to extend over 3 episodes, it would seem,
Yes.
because they still
Yeah,
haven't got
yeah.
out in this one.
No, and it was, I mean, at the beginning, obviously, we saw the supervisor was was very against them causing any dissent, causing any
Yeah,
problems. And then there was an incident, wasn't there? After one of the
yeah,
shifts, they're in these tunnels, so these great big tunnels that connect the levels,
yeah,
and
like
they
conveyor
can,
belts between.
yeah,
Yeah,
they can sort of see
mm,
other groups, other levels, can't they? And they all sort of
yeah.
gesture by hand, you
There's a
know, so
couple that
hand
can do this
signals.
sign language, and they're doing
Yeah,
this.
yeah, yeah,
And
yeah, yeah.
I'm like, oh, that looks so stupid. But because
but
obviously,
but then
any guards looking down the
yeah,
line would be like, what the fuck is he doing? He's like, his arms are going all over the place. He's got semaphore signals, isn't he? He's
that
calling
that's
it.
reinforced by the Andor nobody's listening, you see, because they don't
Yeah,
care. They think they've got the guards sewn up. They can say what they like. It don't
yeah,
really matter.
no escape.
Um, yeah, yeah. So and something's happening down, and they say on level 2, you know,
Yeah,
there's some sort of thing that's held up everybody
they made
moving
a
into
mistake.
the compartments. And yeah, it turns out they find out later, don't they made a mistake that someone who'd been freed was actually put down onto another level.
Yeah.
So they suddenly realize, hang on, we're not getting out of here. We're going to
No.
be just move to another level when our time is
They
done.
killed, and they kill the whole lot of them, don't they?
Then they killed the whole level. Yeah, exactly. So, which was pretty, oh, fucking hell. Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Well, they
mean,
needed a statement to convert Andy
mm,
Serkis because Andor needs Andy
yes,
Serkis, his supervisor, on
that's
board.
right. That's right. That's what
So
this episode was about, wasn't it? It was about
yeah,
getting Andy
really.
Serkis' character to change his mind. Because at the end there,
Yeah.
you see them walking down. It says, "How many guards on how many guards on
Yeah.
thing?" And he says,
Something he's been asking him all the
12.
time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So that was good. That was good that there, and so it'll be a lot easier for him now if he's got this supervisor guy on his team, to try and hatch a bit of an escape plan. I mean, there was another bit where you see they're bringing someone down, and he's talking to another prisoner, wasn't he, and sort of saying, "Look, you can see when they could come down to halfway, we could jump them, get one of their weapons." You know,
Mm.
he
Mm.
noticed when the guy put his hand on the railings when he was up there that it doesn't
Yeah.
affect the
They're
the
scheming.
electricity. So they're coming up
Yeah.
with all the sort of plots and plans, aren't they?
I think on the face of it, actually, with the way that they've talked about it, has made it very believable that they potentially could escape.
Yes. Yeah,
So
yeah.
they've set it up nicely for the next episode, and it will be. I think it will be fun. And I was
Yeah.
looking at it. There's a consistency to these episodes, and the director is called Toby Haynes, and he has done a heinous job, I would say, at making these two episodes good. And
Right.
I
Yeah.
just think that his touch, this director, has obviously got the right idea.
Yes.
I
Yeah,
think
yeah.
he's doing the next one, and yeah, it's the same by the same guy, so we should get a consistency hopefully
Yeah, which
between
is
these
good,
three
isn't it?
episodes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's something we've noticed about other series recently, that they're all done by somebody different. They're all written by committee.
Mm.
You need that sort of thread, don't you, going through the whole series
Yeah.
to tie it all together to make it consistent. And there were times when we were like, have they even seen the episodes before? That
Yeah.
they've
Well,
come up with
Toby Haynes
these.
as a director, he's got
Mm.
quite a bit of experience in TV. He's directed shows like Utopia, which I think is a fantastic show,
Ah, right,
and
yeah.
he's also done some work on Sherlock. He's done work on Doctor
Brilliant.
Who,
Oh, that's
Spooks.
good.
He's a British um
Yeah.
director, and it's interesting actually that it
Well,
makes me brings up
got
something
to
else
raise
that I wanted
standards then.
what I wanted to say is that we're looking at a really quite strong British cast here, aren't we,
Yes,
within
yes.
this whole system? So they obviously it looks like
Well,
they've. I mean, if you look at
historically, they
the
used a lot of
team,
British cast
they
in the
did,
original Star Wars, didn't
they did,
they?
but I think they must have shot it in England, because if you look at the
Yeah.
team that they're working with in the
Mhm.
prison, that the seven
Yeah.
guys there, and then the
Mm.
doctor, they're all British,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
so they've obviously pulled them in just from the local vicinity, haven't they? Just got a load of actors who are
Uh,
based in England,
no, it's
and
good.
yeah, no, it's a certainly interesting dynamic. It feels very like a very British product.
Yes. Yeah. Definitely. Definitely.
you know.
So I'm quite looking forward to where that's going to go. I'm thinking, that could be a good sort of breakout sort of
Yeah, no, I'm
episode.
looking forward to it. Yeah, should be
And it'll
good.
still should still give us a couple of episodes left. So
Yeah.
yeah, this will be interesting. Mon Mothma's obviously in this a bit more again. And this time we actually see her in the Senate, don't she? She's speaking out quite,
Mm.
publicly about overreach and that they shouldn't be,
Yeah.
treating these systems as they are. And there's a lot of barracking coming from other senators, people
Yeah. They're
leaving, not
turning their
listening to
lights off.
her.
All their little buggies
Exactly.
have got a light at the front, and when they just disagree,
Yeah.
they turn their light off and they just
Yeah.
walk off.
And they're
You know.
off, and
Yeah.
there's clearly not that much support for it, and they're all pro emperor, so it's showing the problems with the system
Yeah.
there.
And there's a nice little
um
conversation back at her place between three couples or six people or
that's
something
right,
like that, where
that's
they're
right,
talking
yes.
about how far they want the empire to take control of their lives, in a sense.
Yeah,
How restricted should they be? How safe
yeah,
should they feel?
yeah, yeah,
And those threads are carefully woven throughout these episodes. I think very
yeah,
interesting.
yeah,
Very
yeah.
very fascinating to see.
Yeah, there's a good line in it where it says something like, if you've done nothing wrong, then you'll be
Yeah,
fine, sort of thing. And she's like,
yeah,
well, I'd like to know your definition of wrong, you know.
yeah,
So it's
yeah.
like, yeah, the goalposts keep changing. Oh, we've just seen Andor get taken to prison for basically loitering in an area
He
where
always looks
there's someone
suspicious,
else
though,
having
doesn't he?
trouble.
He's always
He
got that
does.
look on his face.
He's a shifty looking character, isn't he? A shifty
You
looking
throw him in
character.
prison
Yeah.
for, cut 6 years. If you were rounding people up, he'd definitely be on the list. He's got that look. Yeah,
And
but no,
it's also, we can also see that Momoth is set for potentially being in trouble as well, couldn't we? Because she's
yeah,
been moving money about when she shouldn't,
yeah,
inappropriately for funding these sorts of things.
yeah. We see
Um,
the few cracks appear, don't we? Because she gets quite
mm,
worried
mm,
about it, and she's like, "Oh my god,
yes,
can we hide it? Can we cover this up?" And
yeah, yeah,
the guy he's saying, "Well, it's difficult."
yeah,
So
yeah, absolutely.
we'll
And
see.
he's then come up with this idea that we could get some money from somebody else, this Davos Galgan or something.
Yeah,
But she's very resistant to that because he's known to be a bit of a character, isn't it? A hood.
yeah, yeah.
So yeah, she's very yeah. There
But
is
she resigns
pressure
herself to it in the end, doesn't she?
pressure piling on her, and she's thinking, I'm going to have to do it
Mm.
to stop some sort of audit or some sort of checking on her, so
Yeah,
which would probably expose her, wouldn't it, to be honest with you?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Genevieve O'Reilly is really nailing that as well at the moment. I'm really enjoying her Mon Mothma. It's great.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it is good. Yeah,
Mm.
and the whole dynamic of that, her I think her husband's good.
Yeah.
Even the daughter's played
Yeah.
quite well, isn't it?
Yeah.
So yeah, that's worked quite well. We see Vel has turned up now, hasn't she, in this one? And we
Mhm.
mentioned, she's turns out to be the cousin of Mon Mothma.
Yeah.
And there's some friction there, isn't there? She's sort of a
Hmm.
bit, what's the word? She's kind of
Reticent.
angst.
Yeah.
Yeah, and just sort of saying, well, we're kind of on the front lines and you're sort of sitting up here, sort of thing, but it's just as dangerous,
Yeah.
isn't it? As we
She
sort
said
of
something.
said.
She said something along the lines like, "No, I've got the most to lose." She said that a few
Mm,
times throughout
mm,
this.
yes.
And if she falls, she would fall a great height. There's no doubt
Yeah.
about it. So she's playing a careful game.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Absolutely.
dangerous game.
Um, yeah. Yeah, definitely.
In fact, there's a great scene
Um,
just to punctuate that where
yeah.
you see Vel go, and then it pans backwards, and you see Mon Mothma framed in this doorway with this big
Mhm.
light above her, and she's on her own as it gets
Yeah.
wider and wider and wider, and she just
Yeah.
still, in this spot. And I thought
Mm,
that was very beautiful. I thought that was excellent.
mm, mm. Yeah, and there's
Yeah,
some good scenes like that, aren't there?
yeah,
Where they've tried to capture the essence of the characters and
yeah,
and their situations. Yeah. Like we said earlier, it's obviously we're expecting some sort of big breakout from the prison, which all this has been good setup now, hasn't it?
yeah,
For what's going to happen next.
yeah,
We've had some
yeah,
good character development, some good plot line, coming together. Vel and Sintra are still looking for him as well, aren't they? And that
yeah,
could be an issue. So he may get out and then have the problem of dealing with Vel and Sintra as well.
yeah,
So it could really come to a head at the end of the series, couldn't it? It could be a bit more action and adventure
yeah.
to come.
No, nicely set up for the next episode, I think.
Yeah. Thanks everybody for watching today. We're quite enjoying this series and looking forward to the next episode. If you like what we're saying, obviously please subscribe and like and comment. Otherwise, we'll see you again soon.